Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance Channel. It is our last shop tour of the year. It is December 21st and I'm not going to be here next Thursday, and so I'm not going to see you guys again until January 4th, and we will get the 2024 racing season going, shop tours, videos, all sorts of stuff. So we'll see. I actually had a really interesting dyno session with a couple guys last week with some really cool pickup trucks, and we should have a video that we'll be working on in the next couple weeks, and keep your eyes open for that. It's really interesting. It was kind of very surprising to me, and I don't get too surprised very easily, so be on the lookout for that. Anyway, hope you guys have a great Christmas, because I'm not going to see you next week, and Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2024. I kind of like being gone between Christmas and New Year's because it seems like half the country takes off anyway, and I can't get parts, I can't talk to anybody. It's just a mess anyway, so it's all good. All right, shop tour time. I'm just finishing up this B18 C1 for an endurance team. So the one that you saw last week was their non-VTEC, so that would have been a B18 B1. This is a B18 C1 VTEC engine. So it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of similarities to these motors, but they're also vastly different in the valve train, in the ports and the heads, different bore, different stroke, just kind of interesting stuff. So kind of a neat thing. Now, this week, I'm going to give a big shout out to Mike Taylor. So we were at the runoffs, and Mike was adjusting his valve lash with this tool. And what it is, it's kind of simple. It's a 10 millimeter here, and you've got a flat blade screwdriver there, and you can get your feeler gauge right in here. You can see it's kind of tight to get in here. In the past, I've just kind of had to adjust with the screwdriver and then get my socket on there and tighten it up, and then it would turn, and you'd have to like redo it 50 million times trying to figure out how much to loosen it up before you tighten the nut down. And of course, every one of them was different. So with this setup, you've got a slot. So I can get so I'm looking for 8 thousandths here. So I can get that in there, and I can literally set this pretty cool tool right on the nut there. I can loosen this up, get it out of the way, slide my feeler gauge in here, and then literally just use the flat blade screwdriver and adjust it until 8 just tightens up, and then I'm going to back it off just a tick, and without having to move anything, I will tighten this down. And I can hold the screwdriver so it won't turn. Pull the whole thing up. See how we're looking. 8 thousandths. Second tip of the day. When you're doing valve lash and your 8 goes in, get out your 9 and make sure it won't go. It just barely goes. So, really quickly, we're going to go back on. This is actually the first time I'm using this tool, so I'm not super proficient, but I can back it off. And I'm going to give this just a tiny turn. Snug it back down. 8 thousandths. 9 won't go. Easy enough. I appreciate it, Mike. Merry Christmas, buddy. So we're going to get this finished up, and then once all the valve lash is done, we can do some cam timing. So at some point, maybe we'll talk about how cam timing actually works, but that is not for a shop tour. But moving on. Okay, so into the season, into the year, I'm trying to get a few things done out the door, obviously before I leave tomorrow. And so we've got a lot of end-of-year things that have happened. This is actually Ken Kennard's engine going back to OPM Autosport in Georgia, so they can put this in for Ken's racing season. He will be racing in January, but I don't think they're going to use this motor for that. Going to get a couple races in and then put this one in, and then we'll flip around for the runoffs motor. So we've got that done, got more parts in for the SMX project here while the blocks are out getting bored and honed. We've got our second cylinder head, we got clutches and flywheels and bearings and all the goodies. John, I still haven't gotten your engine out of your crate yet. It's going to happen probably today or tomorrow. I don't know that I'm going to be in touch with you before I go on this vacation, but I do want to get into this project. But you can also say, here's the completed B18 B1 for the same customers that I'm building the C for. So we've got our pile of bits and pieces for this engine, of course, with some AMSOIL break-in oil, some new fuel injectors. Obviously, it looks like we got a new clutch and everything. So looking good on this project. I think they'll be here tomorrow. If I can complete this engine, we'll get that finished up. So that's kind of what I've been working on in the shop. In the meantime, of course, I'm chipping away on the old Mazda 2. So I'm actually getting pretty close here, guys. I got the wiring all completed, and so what I'm doing now is I'm getting everything loomed up. So it took a little bit of work to get everything to integrate from the Motec through the CAN bus, but now you can see when I flip this on, ignition on, everything comes through the CAN bus, and it was kind of an interesting thing because it was actually an AIM problem, because their integration from a Motec into the AIM conversion for pressure was sending it in kPAs instead of PSI, and so we had to do a factor so that, for instance, you can see fuel pressure right there. So it's not showing PSI on here, but it's showing PSI as the number. So same thing for oil pressure, that's all working perfect. Car starts and runs, and now it's just time to get everything loomed up. And so as you can see here, I'm kind of taking my time, and I've got all the oxygen sensor wiring done. I showed you guys this Seals-It grommet over here, which is now installed right here, and I've got the 2 oxygen sensors coming through. Why do I have 2 oxygen sensors? Well, for starters, the Motec was already running one, and I thought, and I can CAN bus this over into the dash as well, but sometimes I'll have 2 oxygen sensors, so if one is reading odd, I can compare the 2, so that's kind of helpful. But you can see I've started my loom, and it comes up over to here. I've got this all loomed up and covered and organized just the way I always like to do it, so that's kind of what I'm working on there. Other than that, we're just going to keep chipping away. You can also see that I've got the suspension completely together, and that all worked out perfect. So the suspension is done with the new hubs and the bearings, and we are looking good. So the list is getting smaller every day. So keep chipping away. Like I say, keep chipping away all the time. I know it's like the most redundant thing I say every week, but keep working on your race car. Guys, have a great Christmas. Thanks for watching. See you next year.